Hello there, people of the internet. All right, gang, that's enough lollygagging. It's enough talking shop. Now it's time for us to actually get out there and start sourcing inventory for our resale businesses. And now we know exactly where we should be looking. Online auctions. As I speak, there are tens of thousands of auctions online all across the country just waiting to be bid on. But hold on there. Before you go getting all click happy, it's important to know not all auction houses are the same. And in fact, the overwhelming majority of them are going to be a complete waste of your time. So how to find the needle in the haystack? How to find that one auction house out of 1,000 that you can keep coming back to again and again and again and make that big money. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what you should be looking for in an auction house and where exactly to find them. By the way, for those that have been hanging around from the beginning, I realized that my facial hair is a little schizophrenic. I'm just trying out some new stuff, and apparently right now I'm in my Little League baseball coach era, so I'm kind of digging it. We'll see. We'll see if it sticks around. So let's cut right to the chase. In this video, we're going to be talking about the criteria by which you should be evaluating online auction houses to find the good ones. By far, the most important criteria, buying local is key. And when I say local, I mean anything within a reasonable driving distance. I live just outside of Houston, so I would consider local to be anything that I can get to and from within 1 day of driving. This would include San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Shreveport, or Lafayette. Anywhere further, and I'd probably need to stay overnight wherever I was going, and I don't really consider that local. And I will drive further if I need to, but generally speaking, being within this many major cities within a day's drive means I don't typically have to go further than that, and I'm usually pretty happy with the amount of inventory I get. Depending on where you're located and how many major cities you have within driving distance, your definition of local may vary slightly from mine. But you should still favor buying stuff that is closer to you rather than stuff that's far away. So why is it so important to buy local? When I first started buying in online auctions, I was buying stuff from all over the place. I was buying stuff in California and New York and having it all shipped to me. What I very quickly found is that shipping expenses are exorbitantly high, especially because for most of these auctions, you're going to be paying a third-party pack and ship company to go to the auction house within a specified window of time, collect those items, take them back to their warehouse, package them up, weigh them, take the dimensions, and then give you a shipping quote. And let me tell you what, that shit ain't cheap. If you're smart, you're factoring that potential cost in whenever you're bidding on anything that's not within driving distance. So your profit margins are going to be a whole lot tighter than a bidder who is local to that auction company and can just drive down there with his truck and pick all that stuff up. But the flip side is you have a huge competitive edge in your local market against any out-of-state bidders who also have to factor in shipping costs. I buy from about 12 auction houses on a regular basis. And by regular, I mean at least once a quarter. 10 of those auction houses are local to me. Just to give you an idea of how important this criteria is. Another small note about shipping things that you win at auctions. Generally speaking, most of the stuff you buy is going to be sold as is, where is, with all faults, and with no guarantees. Which means that if you ever have to file a shipping insurance claim on those items, you're going to have a hard time proving the value of those items and proving that they weren't already damaged when you bought them. I have had more than one insurance claim denied because when I sent them the invoice to prove the value of the item, they highlighted and circled the part that said as is, where is, with all faults, and then denied the claim. I'm not saying it's going to happen every single time, but it is definitely something that you have to factor in. Auction house criteria number 2. If they're not local, look for ones that offer in-house shipping. You remember I mentioned the 10 out of 12 auction houses that are local? Well, the 2 that are not local, that are located, more than 500 miles away from me, both offer in-house shipping. Generally speaking, when an auction house offers in-house shipping, they're doing it at cost. They're doing it as a value add to attract potential customers from out of state like me who want to participate in that auction, but they don't want to pay exorbitant shipping fees in order to do so. Auction houses that offer in-house shipping are few and far between, but they do exist. Always check the auction description. If an auction house offers in-house shipping, they will say so loud and clear. They want you to know that they do. They may also have a list of preferred vendors. Maybe they have a contract or an agreement with a third-party vendor that provides shipping services. But again, in those situations, they're probably not doing it at cost. If it's your first time dealing with a new auction house and you're not sure how their shipping works, reach out to them ahead of time. Ask them, hey, could I get a fee schedule for your shipping services? Usually they'll have a list ready to go and send back to you and say, yeah, we charge this much per box or this much to palletize. Also, see if they offer palletization and freight pickup services, especially if you're looking to buy enough stuff to fill one or more pallets. Shipping costs per item get way cheaper when you buy in bulk. Auction house criteria number 3, high quality goods with a small customer base. I put these two things together because they're pretty related to one another and they have to do with the overall lifespan of an auction house. This one's going to be a little bit of inside baseball here, but bear with me because it's pretty valuable to understand how the auction business works and how it develops over time. Brand new auction houses tend to sell low quality items and have a small customer base. The small customer base is pretty easy to explain. I mean, any new business is going to start out with a small customer base, most likely. The low item quality can be for a few different reasons. Many online auction houses start out as professional resale companies that have a large glut of inventory that's not moving. And in that situation, most likely it's stuff that they already had listed on eBay or Amazon that wasn't moving very quickly, which also makes it incredibly undesirable for you as another reseller. Other auction houses that are operating on a consignment model, which means that they're not actually selling their own goods, they're contracting with another person to sell goods on their behalf and just take a percentage fee, are generally not able to attract high-end clientele with valuable inventory because they just haven't been around long enough. They don't have the kind of track record to demonstrate that they can bring in top dollar for high value items. Whatever the case may be, generally speaking, new auction houses tend to have fairly low quality items on average. But the good news is, when they do sell the occasional decent item, because they're new and because their customer base is so small, probably the only competition that you're going to have are other resellers. See, professional resellers have an incentive to actively seek out new auction houses. So to start with, that's probably going to be the majority of the people shopping there. If an auction house survives long enough, they will start to attract end users instead of resellers to bid on their stuff. And generally speaking, end users are willing to pay more than professional resellers for the same item because they don't have to worry about things like profit margins. End users are perfectly happy with a 10 to 30% discount, whereas a reseller is going to turn their nose up at that. As the sale price of goods at an auction houses go up, more and more of their customers will want to sell things through them. In other words, they're going to attract more clientele in their customer base. And not only more clientele, but the same clientele that they're already attracting will be willing to consign more valuable goods. In other words, they will be willing to gamble on more valuable stuff to sell through that auction house. This creates a positive feedback loop with high prices, bringing in better clientele, bringing in better inventory, bringing in higher prices, and so on. As prices continue to climb, eventually the margins become too narrow for resellers and they fall away almost entirely. And this is the point where that auction house is no longer interesting to you as a buyer, but it may be appealing to you as a consigner. I actually had the privilege of watching this entire life cycle with an auction house that I worked with about 5 years ago. When they first opened up this auction house, they somehow landed a government contract to sell surplus goods from high schools and police departments and 911 centers and things like that. So right out the gate, they were selling pretty decent equipment. But because their customer base was so tiny, there was no competition. And I got most of that stuff for a song. Eventually, their prices got too high for me to make any money off of them. But at that point, I had been buying from them for like 3 years and I had a really good relationship with them. And because I had such a good relationship with them and had been working with them for so long, they got me a sweetheart deal on a consignment rate. And I started selling stuff through them for like a 15% consignment, which is really good. Trust me. For an in-house auction company where I can just drop off my stuff and they sell it for me, a 15% rate is a steal. But I only got that because I was a good customer and I treated them really well and they liked me enough to get me a good deal. This is why it's so important to be good to your auction companies. It will pay dividends in the long run, especially when you grow to the point where you need to start liquidating stuff of your own. And let me tell you, working with an auction house instead of trying to start one yourself is a whole lot easier. So to quickly summarize this point, we're looking for auction houses that are fairly new, but are not selling complete trash. This means that we're going to need to search for new auction houses on a fairly regular basis. I do a search of my local area at least once a quarter, sometimes more often if I really need more inventory, but for the most part, once a quarter is good enough for me. I recommend having a spreadsheet or at the very least a Google Doc with notes on auction houses that you've already looked at, just so you can keep track of things like, how much are things selling for? Do they offer shipping? That way you're not having to do the same work twice. And a new auction house that you're looking at might be selling trash today, but who knows? Maybe in 3 months they'll have landed a decent contract with somebody and they're selling really nice stuff. So do keep checking in with those new auction houses. Eventually they'll get to the point where they're selling something that's worth looking at. And until they get the kind of customer base that makes their prices unprofitable for you, that's where the money's at right there. Criteria number 4, no reserves. Maybe I'll do a whole video on this later. That's how strongly I feel about this particular point. I hate reserves, to the point where I will just straight up refuse to participate with an auction company that uses reserves on principle. Real quick, just so everyone understands what I'm talking about, let me explain what a reserve is. Let's say an auction house wants to sell something kind of expensive, like say a pickup truck, and they've been given specific instructions by their consignor to not accept anything less than $5,000 for the truck. The auction house has 2 options. They can either set the starting bid at $5,000 so that everyone can see what the minimum sale price is, or they can set the starting bid at $5 but have a hidden, super duper secret $5,000 reserve, meaning people can still bid on the item, but unless their bids surpass the hidden reserve, the item will not sell. There are only 2 meaningful reasons why you would use a reserve instead of a starting bid. The first reason is because you want to emotionally manipulate your potential bidders and get them to become emotionally invested in that $5 pickup truck and hope that when the bidding starts to go up in the last 5 minutes, they don't have enough time for common sense and sticker shock to set in and they'll make an impulse purchase. The second reason is you enjoy wasting my fucking time. I participate in anywhere from 5 to 20 online auctions pretty much every week. Each and every one of those auctions requires a not insignificant amount of my time invested in it, even if I don't buy anything. Every Sunday, I spend 2 to 3 hours doing an auction review, going through my whole list of auctions and trying to find stuff that I might want to bid in, and then adding it to my calendar. And then, as the auction date approaches, I'll spend a few more hours going through the auction lots and trying to find stuff that I might want to bid in, researching those items, coming up with comps, trying to decide what my maximum bid is, figuring out if I would need to do a pick up or rent a truck or figure out shipping. And all of that is before the auction even starts. Like, I haven't even started bidding yet. Then I have to actually attend the auction, which can be anywhere from, 1 to 8 hours, depending on how many lots are in it. So, knowing all of that, let's look at this previous example again. If I log into this auction house and I see a starting bid of $5,000, I can make a decision right away as to whether or not I want to participate in that auction. I can say, okay, I see that price and I think it's fair, I'm going to take a chance, I'm going to bid on it. Or I can see that price and say, you know what, that truck's not worth $5,000 to me, I'm just going to walk away and spend my time doing something else. Either way, I have all the information that I need to make a decision right there. Now let's say instead that it's a $5 starting bid with a hidden reserve. Well, now I have no idea if I'm interested in the truck or not. I might be, but I don't know. The only way that I can find out is to go through all of those steps that I just went through. I'll have to research the truck, look up the VIN, figure out the repair history, the mileage, all of that, attend the auction, and then finally, in the last 30 seconds of bidding, then I get to know if any of that was even worth my time. And that's bad enough if there's only one item that I might want to buy with a hidden reserve. What if the auction has 100 items or 500 items that I might want to buy, and all of them have hidden reserves? And again, the only good reason to do this is because you don't want to scare bidders away with sticker shock. You want them to get emotionally invested in this thing that they might not even be qualified to buy anyway because you set the reserve higher than what they're interested in paying. It's manipulative bullshit and it's a complete waste of my time and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. At this point in my career, I can afford to be really, really picky with the auction houses that I deal with. Maybe you can't. Maybe when you're first starting out, you should try your hand at some auction houses that do reserves. But in my experience, if the auction house sets a reserve, it's because they want more for that thing than I'm willing to pay for it. And I don't want to waste my time finding out. I have many other auctions that I can attend instead. Anyway, rant over. If you can tell, I've wasted a lot of time with this particular thing, and it's a peeve of mine. We'll not talk about it again until I do a whole video about it where I can rant about it more. Those are the 4 big criteria for auction houses. Here are some other general tips and tricks that will help. Generally speaking, auction houses that have terrible marketing are great for you. In other words, the harder you have to work to find an auction house, the better it is because their customer base is going to grow way slower than an auction house that is actually doing a proper job of marketing their auctions. It means you're going to have to put in more work to find them, but that work will be well worth it, I promise you. On a related note, auction houses that have their own dedicated website, instead of doing their auctions on a larger platform like HiBid or ProxyBid or BidSpotter, are generally better as well. That's not to say that you can't find decent auctions on these major platforms, but the issue is those platforms already get so much organic traffic. Any auction house that starts out on them is going to get a large customer base rather quickly if they're selling anything worth buying. So feel free to look around on the major platforms, but you're probably not going to stick with an auction house on there for very long, unfortunately. The solid majority of the auctions that I'm currently buying from all have their own independent website. Certain auction platforms will allow you to see the number of unique bidders watching a particular lot, like BidSpotter, or the number of unique bidders who have already bid on that item, like HiBid. This is a really great way to evaluate the customer base of a particular auction house without actually having to participate. If any item has double digits in watchers or unique bidders, that's probably a bad sign. Most major auction platforms, including HiBid, ProxyBid, and BidSpotter, will allow you to view the past auctions for any given auction house, which is an outstanding way to evaluate how much things have sold for in the past and how many bidders participated at that particular auction house. You will usually need to navigate to that auction house's specific page on that website and then look for something that says past auctions or last 6 months or something like that. It is at the auction house's discretion as to whether or not they will upload the final sale value of any of the stuff in their past auctions, and many will not, but a lot do. It's a really great way to tell how much things tend to sell for at an auction house. You can do a retroactive review and say, okay, how much did this thing sell for versus how much would I have been willing to pay for it? And if you can't find anything that you would have bought for their sale prices, probably good to move on. In conclusion, we are looking for auction houses that are relatively new, either within driving distance or that offer in-house shipping, selling high-value industrial goods that have a small customer base with no reserves and reasonable starting bids. If this seems like pretty narrow criteria, yeah, it is. You want that. Believe me. Like I said at the beginning of the video, the vast majority of auction houses are not worth bidding in. Trust me. Trust me. You're going to spend a lot of time up front researching auction houses, but you're going to save a lot of time and money on the back end by not wasting your time with low-value auction houses. In the next video, I'm going to pick a random city in the US and actually go through the process of finding auction houses that I would consider bidding in based on that location. And I would say leave a comment and give me a suggestion, but you really don't want me doing this for your city. You don't want to broadcast to the rest of the world where you are sourcing from. You want to keep that a secret. That and every single area in the country is going to be a little bit different as far as what websites you're using to advertise and things like that. Anyway, gang, I hope that this gave you enough criteria to start looking and save you a lot of wasted time in the long run. Thanks as always. Please like and subscribe and all that goofy stuff, and we'll see you in the next video.